Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Well, now that we've rescued the secret key to Corneo's stashes from Kyrie,
He has multiple mustaches.
we can optionally give Johnny his wallet back. I say optionally because this is not actually an objective in the quest. It's actually marked on the map as a discovery point instead. So you can ignore this part if you want.
Do you have to do the thing to get?
So what if I were to go into Johnny's new place, take his wallet, would he just magically have a marker on my phone where he is at all times?
I don't know. I wonder though, are they planning save import shenanigans with the second part of the remake series?
Most assuredly, I don't see why they.
I feel like it would be a big
multiple-
letdown if they didn't do something like that.
So,
What carries over,
so
though? That's
if
the
you
thing.
kept Johnny's wallet, would there be an alternate scene with him in the second game where he'd choose you out for not bringing his wallet back? Or maybe you just quietly start the game with more gil than you would otherwise.
I'm liking the second option.
I mean, that's the kind of save import bonus that I could get behind. Not just because it starts you out with an advantage, but because it's a tangible reward for doing something kind of scummy. And then maybe you have a cutscene with Johnny later on where he talks about how hard he had it in typical melodramatic Johnny fashion, because he never got his wallet back.
I don't see save imports amounting to anything besides neat little tidbits that prove that you did play the
That's
first.
generally what they wind up being in BioWare games. Yeah, you can save the Galactic Council in the first game, or you can let them die, or you can intentionally say, nah, fuck them. Let them get blown up. I hate those bastards. But it really just amounts to, whether or not the original council members appear for the same role in Final Fantasy... in Mass Effect 3, or whether a different set of pretty much similar characters take their place. In Dragon Age Origins, you can, through an intense array of moral gymnastics, save the main antagonist's life and recruit him to your party for the final area of the game. And if you do, he survives to appear in Dragon Age Inquisition. And his role in Dragon Age Inquisition is quite nice, but in the very likely event that he didn't make it, he's just replaced by some anonymous Grey Warden who does all of the same things and just has a different voice actor. So,
I mean,
yeah.
that's still it doesn't change the gameplay much, obviously, but story-wise, I think that's a good way to do that kind of thing. In terms of gameplay, what I like when they do these kinds of things is, especially if they're letting you be scummy, is if it gives you a short-term benefit now, and then long-term it ends up biting you in the ass.
Yeah.
Just because I think that's a cool way to do that kind of thing. Just to use this game as an example, if the game did keep track of whether or not you gave back Johnny's wallet, sure, you would maybe starting the game with extra money might be something that you could do. But maybe long term, I don't know, he comes back and takes your shit later or something, I don't know. Maybe it would be, there would probably be a better payoff for that later. I remember Telltale was not really great about this kind of thing because a lot of it really did, even in story terms, just kind of felt half-assed. Spoilers for the first Walking Dead season by Telltale. One of the big choices early on is whether or not you ransack an abandoned car for its goods. And you can either say, yeah, I'm going to do it, or no, I'm not going to do it. And if you do it, then there is a visual reminder of you doing it the entire game because, oh god, what's the little girl's name? Oh god, I should know this. Clementine, yeah, she wears a sweatshirt the entire game because it's getting cold. And if you don't, she's just wearing her normal clothes the entire time. But at the end of the game, you find out, oh, the guy who kidnapped her is the guy whose car you stole all the stuff from. And then, if you ended up not choosing to steal his stuff, like, the ending of the game doesn't really work. Because it's like he's getting revenge on you for doing that, but it's just like, I didn't take your shit, leave me alone.
It's like, what's the motivation if you didn't do it?
And not to mention that even if you do it, like, you get this visual reminder of her, like, wearing the sweatshirt the whole time, which is neat, I guess. But, like, you never get any extra comments about her being cold or uncomfortable throughout the main game if you do take her stuff. So it just kind of ends up being a choice to be a choice more than anything else. Which I suppose is just kind of an issue that a lot of the Telltale games had, where your choices ultimately didn't matter a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they want to. At the end of the day, they have a narrative they want to tell, and you can't give the player too many options.
Yeah.
To keep it on that track.
In a game structured like Telltale, yes, because when you have to release the same episodes for everybody. If you were doing a longer game that's singular, you could probably have more branches, and the choices could be more.
Like, in Mass Effect, like, only a few choices really have a strong impact on the game. Like, the choice of which of your 2 human companions from Mass Effect 1 survives. That has a strong impact because when they come back in Mass Effect 3, well, those 2 people are 2 very different party members with 2 very different personalities and stories behind them. And they play the same main role in the plot, but after that, you have a completely different character on your ship who has different interactions and everything. It's like that sort of thing feels weighty because it affects you on a gameplay level, you know. But at the same time,
did without you don't have to spoil anything if you don't want to, but did Mass Effect 1, 2, 3, or Andromeda like have multiple endings?
Mass Effect 3 had different endings, but it's one of the reasons why people were so upset with that game.
Well,
because it felt like the ending didn't really change.
The Mass Effect 3's ending was basically the ending to Deus Ex, where you have 3 buttons to press, essentially, and you get a different ending depending on what button you press. And one of them was your main character becomes an AI construct and basically rules the universe, which was one of the options in Deus Ex as well. So that's one reason people were disappointed with it, because it was highly unoriginal. But also, the original version of Mass Effect 3's endings just didn't have a whole lot of meat on their bones. Like, it was a very rushed kind of ending. The extended cut is appropriately named because they added all of the stuff that should have been there in the first place. Like, some feedback as to how your choices throughout the series affected the universe. You'd get images during the ending monologue that show what all the different races and peoples of the galaxy are doing after the Reaper War. Who's died, who's alive, are the Quarians and the Geth making nice with each other, or which of the 2 survived and how are they doing? Or you screwed over the Krogan by tricking them into thinking that you cured their genophage, but you didn't actually do it, so now they have to deal with that. And you see, like, fading in and out images of all these things happening. That wasn't in the original ending. In the original ending, you had a red option, a blue option, and a green option. And you got to see the pretty lights. That was about it. So, like, I remember around the time the game came out, people were defending the ending, like, you can't, like, you can't knock BioWare's creative integrity. And then when they announced the enhanced edition, these same people were like, they're walking back on their creative integrity. No, they're just doing a better version of the same thing.
At the same time, though, I remember that the fan base was, like, absolutely... Like, granted, this isn't saying that the ending wasn't bad. I believe you in that it was. But people were going apeshit about it.
The fan base was pretty... The fan base was pretty obnoxious. Around this time, BioWare had a forum of their own called the BioWare Social Network, which I don't think exists anymore.
Well, that's because people don't really use forums anymore, but... Yeah.
I do kind of miss forums, though.
I'd say no. Older generations still hang out in
Yeah,
forums.
and people people in
IRC
nursing
still
homes still
exists.
play bingo. John, what's your point?
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying people still use forums.
Yeah, Reddit is a forum, but like,
Yes.
the point is they had their own forum, the social network, which was fairly well populated, and whenever you saw someone knocking BioWare for being woke or something, it was usually like statements and responses and comments related to that forum, because that was the place people would go if they wanted to say, talk about how female shepherd or female hawk never got like marketing space at all. And then they decided with Mass Effect 3 to do that and give you a reversible cover and all, and it was nice, but the flip side of this is that it was tied to a forum full of community members of varying levels of civility and toxicity. I'm gonna just put that
Isn't that every fan base, basically?
Yeah, it is. But when it's up front and center, and people have a place to go where they can see the developers directly interacting with these people, they can twist it to suit whatever view that they want of that particular company. And in this case, people wanted to complain that BioWare had made a few slightly awkwardly written homosexual scenes in Mass Effect 3. So, yeah.
It's okay though. I'm sure that with their newest game, everything's going to be right on track.
Well, we don't know anything about Mass Effect 4 yet.
Oh no, I was talking about Anthem.
Anthem?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's like well behind us now. But there is a Mass Effect 4, and we know like some
Wait,
broad.
when did they announce Mass Effect 4?
A while ago. It's gonna
Will
pick
it come
up
out before or after Prime 4?
well, I don't know.
It'll come out before Prime 4. Because Prime 4 still got a long way to go.
The second stash, by the way, is like very conveniently right next to a Chocobo quick travel place. By the way, the 3 Tiara items, which are sort of here, like the crests in Resident Evil Remake, they're just sort of a reference to a puzzle that used to exist in the original game, but doesn't exist anymore.
They're another fashion accessory.
Yeah, your goal for the Corneo's Secret Stash quest is to collect the 3 tiaras and turn them into Marl so that she can sell them to fund the Sector 7 restoration.
No, she gives you a magnum.
Why are we letting an 8-year-old fund our
Marl?
No, Marl's the old woman.
No, Marl's the old lady.
Not
Oh,
Marlene.
I'm thinking of Marlene.
The
Okay,
landlady.
Yeah, Marl's
Yeah.
Marl's the old innkeeper.
Yeah,
Marlene, what happened to you?
The old innkeeper.
Okay, now,
Damn, you should.
now I'm imagining Marlene with like the old accountant's visor hat thing, just like over a computer, like crunching numbers.
That's adorable.
Daddy, we're not gonna make this month's budget at this rate.
I don't think gun arms are tax deductible.
When you say that, all I can see is Nanako from Persona 4 doing that. But
That is just Nanako from Persona 4 in general. She's the only adult in that household.
She is. She really is. Okay, that's giving Dojima a little too little credit. He's a very competent character and good at what he does and very mature.
He's doing the best he can, being a single filer who also works a job that basically pulls him away at any given moment.
Yeah. I mean, there is a side story with Dojima and his social link where he's also investigating the car that killed Nanako's mother in a hit and run years and years ago. The trail's long been cold, so you basically have to help him realize that he needs to move past this shit and just focus on Nanako. But apart from that, he really does have it together. He even almost sort of figures out what's going on with the investigation team and the Persona users, but it's all so over his head that he just decides it's not worth trying to find out what's really going on, and he just decides to trust Narukami when he says things are okay now.
Well, his alternative is either do that or believe that teenagers can go into the TV world and summon, magical beings to fight on their behalf.
Well, yeah, you can try to explain the stuff to him in the interrogation room when he takes Narukami aside right before Nanako gets kidnapped, and he's just like, no, he just completely no-sells you. It isn't until after you rescue Nanako that he realizes that no matter how strange the stuff going on behind you is, you're pretty much on the up and up, and then ever after, whenever there's a spin-off story that takes place after Persona 4, Dojima is usually like quick enough on the uptake to realize that you're doing something to intervene in some weird event that's happening nearby, and he just sort of acknowledges that you're doing it, tells you to be careful, and leaves you to it. It's neat. Okay, so for some reason, for this one area of the game, there's this mechanic that comes up where it says, like in a tutorial message, some missions and treasures will require you to go underground. And there's a button that lets you quickly surface. You can hold L1 to just leave the underground area quickly. So it's like they're establishing this mechanic for part 2, I think. Like, there are going to be multiple underground ruins and caves and stuff that you can explore, which would be neat, yeah. I'm looking forward to that. It's just odd that they introduce it, like, at the very end of this game with exactly one cave that has a dedicated mechanic to it. And it's not even, like, an original area. It's an area that you've already been through.
That is bizarre, yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of the few places where they're very clearly telegraphing a mechanic that won't really matter until the second part.
I think it's just their way of giving you an exit option when you're done exploring this place. Just imagine if you didn't.
Oh yeah, you'd have to backtrack all the way through the underground lab, which
yeah,
wouldn't take too long, but it would definitely be annoying.
I mean, normally in other Final Fantasies, you'd already have a warp or exit spell that you'd use to get out of the dungeon quickly, and no such thing exists in this game.
But, like, they give you a tutorial message, and they talk about it in the plural, like there are going to be other instances of this. But not in this part, no.
I am imagining, though, in this version of Final Fantasy where there is one cloud just casts it and just floats up into the air. It's like, I must go now. My planet needs me.
Just crashes right into the ceiling.
That's just Dragon Quest.
Yeah, and Pokemon.
Well, no,
Pokemon was always...
No, in Dragon Quest, if you try to warp and use the zoom spell inside a dungeon,
you crash into the
ceiling.
Which I thought was hilarious.
Earthbound does something similar where if you don't have enough space to use it, you just crash into the wall.
Well...
Oh my god. That's the one thing I hated about Earthbound Beginnings, because at least the original, not the original, the second Mother game allowed you to warp by like running in circles constantly, which I think was a second method of traveling, but in the original game, to my remembrance, you could only do the one where you had to run in a straight line for a bit.
Don't you, like
Doc Brown's
in
story.
Earthbound, isn't the fast travel like you go from one city to the next city and you have to stop, like, and you can't just go straight from city 1 to city 4. You have to like cycle.
Yeah, you have to get a running start basically.
Yeah. But like you can't you have to like cycle through them all.
No, I don't remember. No, I think you're able to choose where you want it to go. You just needed to get a running start in order to teleport it all.
I don't get it.
Which is a thing I do appreciate on Smash Brothers. SNES's entrance animation.
Yeah. And again, they knew how much of a pain... I mean, because they give you the first one, which is just a reference to the first Mother game. But then they later give you a second one where you can just run in place, basically. Which means you don't need that much space.
Yeah, but I don't get why they had that mechanic in the game to begin with, other than to just be quirky and weird.
It's also a reference to Back to the Future.
Yeah, I was going to say, Shigesato Itoi probably really like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I mean, I also like Back to the Future, but that won't make... If I ever make a game, I'm not going to make my warp system annoying just to reference Back to the Future.
In an RPG, sometimes it does help with the feel of the experience to have in-universe things that aren't necessarily convenient, but make sense within the context of the story, like having to get a running start to get your teleportation spell working. Like, sure, it's very convenient to just raise your hand and be surrounded in a pillar of light and then instantly be where you want to. But it also, like, makes a bit more sense that such a spell would have an odd requirement like that.
I mean, I understand that part, but I think that more makes sense in the sense of, like, oh, you can't ride your bike inside in Pokemon because, like, no, you can't ride your bike inside. Like that
But
never.
instead they just have Oak telepathically contact you, and he somehow knows you're doing it.
Well, that's just you, like, remembering that he told you, dipshit, don't ride your bike inside. I mean, I do like the fan idea that Oak has telepathic powers, and he's just like, I sense someone is trying to ride a bicycle indoors.
But anyway, I guess the real point is that they want the Earthbound universe to have its own flavor and identity. So just having a bitch basic teleportation spell is one thing, yes, but you also have cases where other games have teleportation spells that have specific conditions unique to that world. For example, in Pokemon, you have to have a flying Pokemon, and it has to fly you where you want to go. So you can't actually use it unless you keep a flying Pokemon on you. Only the big flying Pokemon can actually learn it.
No,
Pidgey.
Pidgey.
That is still... Oh, who did that
Pidgey
comic? Where Blue is
but-
just standing on a Spearow and he's going like, woo!
I mean, you can teach it to a Pidgey if you want, but you're probably not going to.
Yeah.
I mean, HM slaves.
Fuck you, I do it for the meme. Do that and Doduo.
Doduo helicopter flipping his heads, yeah.
The point is, in
Yeah.
in the context of that universe, you have a very clear idea of what your fast travel spell is doing and how. And they wanted something like that, but unique to the mother universe, where it's...
The thing is that the Earthbound's quirk is more direct in terms of what you have to do to teleport,
Yeah.
which I think is why people might not like it.
Yeah.
You know, because I would argue you could just keep it to a cutscene and still have them doing the back to the
Yeah, like that, like that's
You know.
what I was thinking. It's just like, yeah, you can just have them go like...
Yeah. At the same time,
Yeah.
it was also...
No, wait,
It
Zoom's
was
Dragon
also
Quest.
introduced, like, in the first Mother game, right? Beginnings.
Yes.
Where they're still in that process of trying to figure out what elements of realism work in video game form and what doesn't. Like...
Here's a giant robot that will guide you through a mounting toy.
I mean, I
Totally
probably
realistic.
don't need to say this, but Earthbound Beginnings was... and Earthbound proper, they're both like... They were both released in the era of frickin' Super Highlight. Where...
No, because here's the thing. Both Mother 1, I'm pretty sure, came out after Dragon Quest 3. I'm gonna double check that,
Mother
but
1
I'm pretty
was-
sure it came out after Dragon Quest 3 did in Japan, because Dragon Quest 3 came out like 1988. Yeah.
What's that have to do with anything?
Dragon Quest 3 is about as polished of a game as you can get for that time. And
But this is also assuming
yeah, but
even
what's-
cares about
dude,
Dragon Quest.
What's that have to do-
the mother interface is exactly the same as Dragon Quest. It's like literally the same thing.
What's that
Like-
have to do with experimenting with realism and trying to figure out what does and doesn't work, though? Because games
I'm
were
not.
still
I'm
trying
talking
to,
about
Yeah, yeah,
games
games
were
because-
still
polish.
trying to. Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
talking about. I'm not talking about likenesses to fucking Dragon Quest. I'm talking about like games in general in the RPG genre. We're still trying to work out what aspects of realism they could get away with and what players would
Or
enjoy.
at least make them more contemporary to that
I
day
brought
and
up
age.
Super Highlight because Super Highlight was a Super Nintendo game that was still messing around with equipment weights and food and hunger systems and all of that stuff that you
I never got
normally-
the idea that Mother was really trying to go for realism at all, though. I always just
No,
got
not
the
realism, but definitely more
That's
contemporary.
not exactly what I mean. This is hard to explain. Realism within the rules of the universe, as in things that you have to do physically within the game that exist more for flavor than for function, like running to do your teleport spell, or eating to stay alive. Like,
I just always saw it as they were trying to do Dragon Quest, but in a contemporary setting, because that basically is just what the first game especially is basically just trying to do that. But I always thought that they were just trying to do things different just to be different, and all it ever did, especially in beginnings, was make the game clunkier for no reason.
Well, I mean, as a base, yeah, you could say they're just trying to do Dragon Quest, but that's strictly as a base. They're still going to do things within their own idea that they feel will add to the experience. So the question of whether or not it
would disagree
works
with that, because just if you take away the art style, they are almost exactly the same game.
Well, yeah, but they're still doing things that that Dragon Quest that definitely didn't, and they're doing those things for their own reasons. Whether or not those reasons work out as they hoped they would is
I think the issue though is that, like Ted, I'm struggling to think what Mother 1 was trying to do differently that just wasn't just Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
Again.
well, it's also hard to set those things apart in the 8-bit RPG genre.
No, I would also disagree with that, because again, like, there are a lot of 8-bit RPGs that are, I would say, like, even something like Phantasy Star and Final Fantasy 1 and 3. Those games, like, I mean, there's similarities between them all. Yes, but
3?
Final Fantasy 3 was an NES game.
Oh, Final Fantasy 3. Okay, I thought I got the ideas blurred, and I thought you were talking about Phantasy Star still.
Phantasy Star 1 was a Sega Master System game.
Phantasy Star 1 was very much just like the same kind of deal as Dragon Quest. The only real difference was that it used first-person dungeons.
Yes, that is true, but again, like, that at the very least is them trying I would say that the battle system is extremely similar, but exploring the world definitely feels a lot different because of the first-person dungeons is a major change, I would say. I don't know as much about the old NES Megami Tensei games. I know almost nothing about those, but those.
Did they start on?
Yeah. So, fun story about Megami Tensei. What, the screen's wobbling? What?
Well, I mean, when you boil it down, though, a lot of the things that set RPGs apart in the old days of 8-bit games, a lot of it was strictly audio-visual differences, like where things were on the screen, giving things a different feel. If that makes sense.
I would say that's true, but I would say that other games tried more to make themselves feel different than the original Mother.
I mean, they were going for a similar feel, but that's not mutually exclusive to what I was saying either.